Hey, what's up guys? This is Yuanjian Liu from Fire Escape Films. Today I will be walking you through some basic settings of cameras. Here I have 3 cameras. The left one is Canon C100, a cinema camera. The middle one is Blackmagic Pocket 6K. It's also a cinema camera and it has super high quality videos, and it has native support in DaVinci Resolve. A very good camera. And this is Panasonic GH5, a more fundamental one, but it also has 10-bit color for filmmakers to color grade it. All 3 cameras are available at Logan Media Center. If you are a member of Fire Escape Films or you have a media course, then you can borrow them and use them for your project. I will use iPhone to record this, and it's just to let you know that you can actually use any equipment to make videos. Okay, so let's jump into the settings for the Blackmagic Pocket 6K. So this large screen, it's actually a touch screen, and everything is touchable. And you can basically do all the settings using this touch screen. On the top, this is the button to turn this camera on and off. So if I toggle it to the left, it's off. If I toggle it on, it will be turned on. There are 3 function buttons that you can customize for your own need. And this is the ISO button for ISO setting. This is shutter speed, and this is for white balance. Okay. This is the record button, and this is for photo. Actually, it's called a still image in DaVinci Resolve. So, okay. I also want to show you this this port. You can plug in a microphone, your earphone here. And HDMI is for an external monitor, and here there is also you can connect this camera to an AC power so that you don't need to worry about the batteries. There is also a port for audio, so this cinema camera can record audio professionally, though I personally never used it because I don't own this camera. You can always sync the audio in post and use some separate device to record the audio. It will not influence the quality, but using this kind of port makes your production faster, because you don't need to find all the audio and sync them up in post. You already have them in your camera. Okay, so you can see that I can only see my light, and everything else is just so dark. So what controls the camera's exposure? If you have some experience with cameras, you may know that there are 3 parameters that determine the exposure. The first is ISO, the second is shutter speed, and the third is the aperture. Where are they? Can you find it? Yes, the first one, white balance, is right here. Or you can also press this button here to adjust ISO. And for now, my setting is 100, and I can increase it, maybe increase it to 8,000, so that I can see, I can actually see something over there, because I don't have any lighting in that direction, so you will find it's very dark. Oh, sorry. Normally, you don't want to set a very high ISO, otherwise you will see many noise points, and you don't want them. Even though there are pretty good noise reduction, and this camera can actually shoot in RAW, you always want to keep your ISO as low as possible. But also, if it's like this, you cannot shoot with this ISO because it's so dark. You need to make sure the exposure is okay and bump up the ISO a bit so that the image is usable. Okay, this is the ISO. The next thing is the shutter speed. Right here, you can always click it here and adjust it like this. Oh, and adjust it like this. It's super easy. But like for now, I'm setting the camera to use frames per second to be 23.98. This is a very common frame rate for films. Hollywood films are all in this frame rate, so we can just follow the convention. The reason is more for motion blurs and kind of the feeling you get. If you are watching a TV show, the frame rate will usually be 30 in the United States. And if you want to shoot in slow motion, then you can set the frame rate to 60 or 120 or even higher. The frame rate just means how many frames your camera record in 1 second. So if you set the frame rate to 59.94, then it will be if you like change the frame rate, interpret the frame rate to be 23.98, then the speed will be 2.5 times slower. And that is how we shoot slow motion. You can even get it higher, but for now in my setting the highest frame rate is 60. Okay. So let's go into the setting. Let's actually talk about some of the buttons here. There are not a bunch of buttons compared to this camera. Blackmagic Pocket is much more beginner friendly because beginners cannot figure out why there are so many buttons on a camera. Here you just basically have a touch screen and everything will be simpler. So this thing is for auto aperture and this thing is for focus. And this, so let's actually look at the menu. You don't need to remember all of this. The most important things are ISO, shutter speed, white balance, and aperture. So here in this menu, we can see it's record, and we can record in Blackmagic RAW or ProRes. ProRes is just a codec that is more general, but it's not RAW. So most people, like if they choose to use this camera, they want the RAW quality. RAW means that the color depth is higher, like you have higher dynamic range for color grading. Also, if you set your temperature wrong, you can always pull it back in post. And this is basically what people are going for, especially for film production. But there is a cost. If I set this to 6K, this is the highest resolution this camera can shoot in. It will be super clear. It has the highest resolution, but you can see that the card can only support it to record for 10 minutes. If I choose 2.8K, then you can see that the card can actually record for 52 minutes. So there's a trade-off. Do you want the highest quality, or do you want to actually finish your production? if you can only shoot like for 10 minutes, that's rather likely that you can't actually finish anything. So you might need to invest in a higher end card, a larger card. So let me show you this. So this camera supports two types of card. One is SD card, another is Canon's card, CF card, if I remember clearly. I personally only use SD card, but if you own a Canon camera or you want some higher end cards, you can always use them. I believe you can also check it out from the Logan Media Center if you request. Apparently I didn't know that before, so I didn't request it, and I borrowed this camera just for this tutorial, so I don't need to shoot this camera for an hour or two. But if you are using it in production, you have to consider this to be usable. And for the raw image, you will need to use DaVinci Resolve to edit the footage. Otherwise, you can't actually even open this file. So bear that in mind. Okay. So and here, constant bitrate, constant quality, they are more advanced stuff, so I will just ignore them. Many of the advanced stuff, I won't talk about them in this video because it's not so helpful for beginners. So here, there's a project frame rate. And what that means is, if I set the project frame rate to 23.98 and I set the frame rate of recording to be 60, then it will automatically slow down the video for me. This is a pretty good feature, and I quite like it, but I don't use it because I use Sony a7 III, and those cameras don't have this feature, and I always just shoot in 60 frames per second and slow them down in post. So that's just a feature, you don't have to use it. And here we can see that we can choose the preferred card for recording. I choose SD card. Apparently I didn't even have a CFast card inside. And the dynamic range, I recommend to choose film, so it has the highest dynamic range. And here it's for time lapse. Apply LUT in file. This one, if you turn it on, it can apply a LUT that you can directly see it in your image. Because if you shooting raw or shooting log, usually the image will be quite flat, and you want to use a LUT to transform the color space from the log space or from the Blackmagic color space to Rec 709. That's what you are going for. And here are a few LUTs that we can use. We can use the Pocket 6K film to extend the video, or a few others. We can also download the LUTs that you like from internet and put them inside your SD card and just put them inside and just load them from file. Okay, and this monitor, we can choose to use the LCD. LCD is this screen, and HDMI is an external monitor that you connect with this port. When I use my Sony camera, I always use the HDMI one because I need because the screen is so small on Sony. Like even for this camera, the screen is so small. you really want an external monitor for film production, because otherwise you can't even see the focus. The focus is everything. You really need to make sure your focus is correct when you do the production, otherwise your footage will just be kind of garbage. And and other things are just more advanced, and I don't think you need it. Oh, one thing to notice, there's a zebra. Zebra is for exposure. I can show you. It's actually quite hard for me to make it overexposed. So basically, when you overexpose your image, then you will see zebra lines. Maybe I will add this in post. And focus assist. This is very important. Focus assist basically lets you see the focus when you change your focal. It will because for now it's just so dark and I can barely see anything, so it's harder. I will also add this in post. You will see some red lines when it's in focus, so you know where your focus is. This is super important because, like, in film production, you always use manual focus, almost always use manual focus, but sometimes in some scenario, if you use DSLR, you can use the autofocus feature, but autofocus is not reliable. The technology is great, but it always fails when you are shooting with actors in the scene performing, so you want to use manual focus. And for those film camera, those cinema cameras, they don't even have the autofocus feature. For Red Dragon, that super expensive camera, they don't have it. I don't know if this Canon C100 has the feature, but I would say it probably doesn't have it. Okay. So let's go back into the next menu, the audio. You can choose the channel. If you use this XLR thing, if you use this external the external audio thing, make sure you choose the channel correctly. For now, I didn't connect anything to this camera, so this channel will always be camera, but you want to use the audio device, you need to set it correctly. And here the setup is for your project. You can choose the date and time. Like for now it's 2022 and April 17. Set the hour to be, it's actually pretty late. 12. This is not super important, but this is important when you are trying to do the editing. It might be easier if you already set it up. And the function button, I set the first function key, this one, to be focus assist. You can change that like this. I personally like this to be focus assist. The second one is false color. The third one is display LUT. False color is a more advanced thing that it can let you see the exposure using a false color, but you don't have to use it. So let me show you what a false color is. Okay, so when you click the second function key, it will turn this image like this. It's pretty strange, but it's useful. You need to get some practice to actually know what this color means, but they are a great feature for you to to see the exposure. And preset is just you can create a preset using current settings. The next time you can just go to it very quickly. For example, you can choose the frame rate and all the codec and quality, and make sure you can use it next time if someone else uses this camera. This is not very reliable though in Logan Media Center, because this camera can be, like, your preset can be deleted by others. Don't rely on that, but each time you rent this camera or you borrow this camera, you can set your own presets to make life easier. Okay, so and what's the next thing to talk about? So you can see the battery drops pretty quickly. Like when I begin this thing, I begin recording, it's 100%, and now it's 62%, even though I didn't even even turn on the recording button. It's already 61%. So when you actually come to the production, it's very important for you to borrow a bunch of batteries. I personally use 5 batteries when I go out with my Sony a7 III, but if you are borrowing cameras from the Logan Media Center, it's very necessary for you to get enough batteries. Okay, the last feature I want to talk about is the ND filter. This lens has the ND filter inside. When I roll this, the ND filter will adjust itself. So let's see this. If I turn off the ND filter, you can see the zebra lines. This means this light is already overexposed. When I turn this ND filter to the right, you can see that the zebra lines just disappears. It means the exposure is in normal. ND filter is just to darken your image. It's essential when you are outside shooting anything outside and in a sunny day. I would say it's one of the most important thing to remember to borrow, because I had some experience that when I shoot my roommate's car, I didn't bring a ND filter for Sony a7 III, and the image is just so bad. But luckily I can pull the exposure back in post, but the quality is still not that good. If you want to keep the highest quality, you need to use the ND filter and open your aperture and slow down your shutter speed to get the best motion blur. And okay, this is about it. And if you have any questions, please let me know. This video will not be super fancy editing because I don't have enough time this week, but hopefully you can learn about the basic settings for this camera and how to use it in this video that is about half an hour. So subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this, and see you next time.